What's up, guys? It is Carly here, bringing you day 26 of my 31 days of horror, and today I'm here to talk about a movie that has been long awaited by many people in the horror community, and that is Halloween from the year 2018. Yes, I finally got to see it, or finally, I saw it on the first night last night, and there was a lot of people there. It was a packed theater, and it was one of the bigger theaters, so it was pretty cool to see a lot of people come out and see it and be pretty excited for the new Halloween, and it was just a very nice atmosphere overall, and I went in really excited for the movie. I was trying not to get my hopes too high up because I know that leads to disappointments and things like that, but I went in trying to be open-minded about the film because I knew that it doesn't obviously follow events that take place after part one. It ignores all the sequels, so it was a movie that you really had to go in with a fresh slate on. And yeah, so the story behind this movie is you get Laurie Strode back, who is now a grandmother and a mother, obviously. She has a daughter and a granddaughter, and she's pretty much estranged from her family because she lives in this constant fear or just paranoid state of mind that Michael is going to escape from the facility he has been locked up in all this time. He's been locked up since the events of part one, but she just constantly lives in the fear that he's going to get out, and she wants to be prepared and be the one to take him down. She teaches herself how to shoot guns, and one of the big things is she was teaching her daughter how to do this crazy stuff as well, and she ends up losing her daughter at a young age, so that is why their relationship is very, very estranged later on in life, and she just kind of keeps to herself in her home, and that's that. The granddaughter is always trying to sort of reach out to her and get her more involved in her life, but it's just very hard with the way Laurie's mind works. And meanwhile, you have Michael, who, like I said, has been locked up. He is now an older man, and you get glimpses of his face, but not really. It's just, you get like side glances of it, which I thought was actually pretty cool. You never actually see his face full on, but you get the idea of what he does look like without a mask on, and I thought that was pretty nifty. But he is locked up and he's being moved to a new facility. When he's being moved, of course, the bus crashes, and that is how he escapes, and he returns to Haddonfield and starts getting back to his old ways of killing. And all the while, Laurie, she is preparing to take him down because she, of course, finds out what has happened, and that is the story here. So yeah, I will talk about the positives first. One thing I really liked right off the bat is Laurie and Michael. They look like Laurie and Michael from the original film. One thing I always didn't like about H2O was, for one thing, obviously Michael's mask was just awful in that film. It was one of the worst masks, and it was multiple masks and things like that, and it just didn't look like Michael Myers at all as he did back in 1978, and Laurie in that movie, I mean, it just looks like Jamie Lee Curtis. She just has her normal hair. It looks like how she would look in like Freaky Friday or whatever other movie came out around that time period. So you just didn't like buy it as much. I mean, you bought it, but it just didn't have that feeling that I always wanted. So this movie really captures how I always wanted them to look. The mask looks spot on to how it looked back in the original film. The only difference is it's very worn out and wrinkly and just, you know, kind of a mess of a mask, which it should look like, and I thought that was really realistic. The character of Laurie, she has her hair long, which I'm assuming is probably a wig because Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, always keeps her hair very, very short, but I thought she looked really good as well. It looked like Laurie just as a grandmother. Obviously, she's very old now, so really like that about it. It gave me just a good vibe right from the start. What else? The granddaughter character I liked a lot, Laurie's granddaughter. I thought she was a pretty likable teenager, and you do feel for her. I also enjoyed her friends. It very much, like I said again, it reminds you of the first movie a little bit, where you have just friends who are babysitting and they want to just do typical teen stuff like make out and have sex and all that stuff. The one dude's kind of like a pothead, and then you know, you have the one girl, she's got a babysitting job, so it's very reminiscent of that first film, but it's like showing how teens are today compared to back then. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought they were all pretty likable characters, not too annoying or anything like that. The setting is really good too. It's very spot on. The Haddonfield looks as it should. It looks like the same location, and it's all decked out for Halloween. There's decorations everywhere, and you have kids out trick-or-treating on Halloween night, and it just looks like they're having a really fun time. This movie really gives me vibes of how Halloween 2 is, where or towards the beginning of the movie, where Michael's kind of lurking around, and then you see people out trick-or-treating, and I think it was trying to capture that vibe. That's another positive with this movie is, while it's not following any of the sequels or anything like that, it does give its nods. Like I said, it gives nods to Halloween 2 as well as Halloween 3, and also obviously Part 1. There's some scenes that are very, very similar to Part 1, like where you have the granddaughter sitting in a classroom setting, and it's a very similar scene to how Part 1 is shot with Laurie sitting in the classroom. So I thought that was really cool. I'm a sucker for my nods as long as they're done correctly and not too over the top or anything like that, and I think they were done really well in this film. You also have the intro thing, obviously the intro credits like in the original Halloween, where you have the pumpkin and it just says Halloween and the pumpkin's getting closer. You have a very similar intro with like the same type of font and orange lettering that says Halloween, but you have this pumpkin that is rotted and it kind of comes back to life, and it's the pumpkin from the first movie. I thought that was awesome. It gave me chills and everything like that. To get into the negatives though with this movie, the one problem I have with it, mainly that kind of centers around my main dislikes, I guess, is that it was very hard for me to disconnect myself from the other sequels and just take this movie for what it is. And I think it's because you get so many sequels, and I hold the Halloween franchise kind of near and dear to my heart. It's one that I grew up with, and I want to say it's probably the first franchise that I actually saw all the movies to, because it was one of the ones that my mom would let me watch, because they're not too over the top with gore or grossness or anything like that. So I've always loved the franchise. I know a lot of people don't feel the same way. They're more fans of Friday or Nightmare on Elm Street, and they think they're better movies, which arguably, yes, they are. The Halloween franchise is pretty sloppy, but for nostalgia purposes, I've always really loved it. It's always been one of my favorites. So for this movie, it's really hard for me to disconnect, where with something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I just don't care as much, I guess, because those movies were a mess with continuity from the beginning. And focus camera. Alright, whatever. Okay, we're good now. Okay, so anyway, guys, other problems I really have with the movie are some of the characters I just didn't care for, like Laurie's daughter, who was played by Judy Greer. I don't really like that actress, for one thing, and another thing is the relationship just isn't, it doesn't really move me or anything like that. Like I said, I do like the granddaughter, but the whole idea that Laurie has this family, it's like a whole new family, it's just very, kind of like, who cares? You don't really feel for them as much, where, I think if it would have been like, oh, her daughter is Danielle Harris, Jamie, or something like that, I think that would have been really cool to try to connect it in that way, but no, you get this character, this character of Karen, and that is her daughter, and then, of course, she has a husband, and then the granddaughter, and I don't know, you just don't really feel for them as much as I feel like you would if they were characters that you knew in the past. They're just kind of lumped into this movie to make up a whole new story, and I didn't really care for that. I also didn't care for there's sort of a Dr. Loomis wannabe in this film, and it's not like he comes out of nowhere or anything like that. He's supposed to be the doctor that took over after Loomis retired, so it's not like he's actually a wannabe and we're supposed to pretend that he's not. Like, it's very obvious that that is kind of the character he is portraying. He's like the new Loomis, and I just don't like him, especially there's a part towards the end of the movie that I really didn't care for, and I feel like a lot of other people probably won't like it either, and I was like, what the heck is this movie about to become? But it kind of redeems itself pretty quickly, but I just did not care for it too much at all, and yeah, I'm trying to think what else. This movie does have some comedic moments too, with the babysitting and stuff like that, and I think they do work. They do make me laugh. It might be a little bit over the top for a movie like Halloween, but they were pretty funny and they did make me laugh, so I can't really knock it for that. Overall, though, it is a pretty solid movie. I think Michael is he is more angrier than ever in this film. Just by the way he's killing people off and stuff like that. He still has that Michael vibe to him, but it just seems like he almost feels more like a Jason type of character in this film than anything else. He just seems very angry, and rightfully so. He's been building up to this night for all those years, so it does definitely make sense. Ending of the film, I didn't really care for too much. I thought it was a bit sort of like anticlimactic in a way, and I thought it worked, but it was just not what I wanted, I guess. I wanted a more epic ending like you get in H2O, but it is what it is. It worked. It was fine, whatever. But overall, good movie. As a Halloween sequel, like I said, it's really hard for me to disconnect myself from the other movies, and I was a little bit disappointed with the film, but as a movie, it's a good movie. It's a good movie to watch around Halloween time, has that great Halloween atmosphere to it, and I do recommend going to see it. I did give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, just my personal feelings towards the Halloween franchise, I was a little bit disappointed, but I could see why a lot of other people would really love and appreciate this film. So 8 out of 10 for Halloween 2018. Sorry guys, this review was so dang long compared to my other reviews on this 31 Days of Horror, but I felt like there was a lot to be said with this movie, especially with all the hype behind it and things like that. So 8 out of 10 for Halloween. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you for day 27.